It's going to happen to you. It's only a question of when. You're going to have a Juniper device and you are going to want to reset that device back to its factory default configuration. You may get sent a device for practice from a friend, and that device has got all kinds of configuration on that device, and you say, you know what? I want a brand new Juniper device. I want it to be just like it was at the factory. You've arrived in the correct place to learn that in this nugget. So I've just connected to our Juniper device, and I'm starting to feel like we're on a device with a factory default configuration already. How can I tell that? Well, the host name on this device is Amnesiac, and that is the default host name that Juniper would utilize. So that's starting to look a bit default. Another clue is when I log in as root, it brings me right into the Unix shell. There was no prompt for a password. Those are two big clues you're on a factory default config. The Amnesiac hostname and nothing set from a password perspective on the root user account. Wow. So let's make a couple of configuration changes, and these you would want to know, by the way, how to do. They're so critical for a particular device. And then let's get us back to factory default. This should be fun. So we need to go from the Unix shell to the operational mode. First, we do that with the CLI. Remember, the root user is taken to the Unix shell. A normal user account would be taken directly into the CLI. But when we log in as root, we literally have to enact the CLI with the CLI command. Now we're in operational mode, as you can see. I'm going to enter edit or the keyword configure in order to enter configuration mode. And what we want to do is we want to edit the system part of the hierarchy. So I say edit system and we enter that particular area. I say set host name and then we'll go ahead and call this Juniper router, which is a terrible host name in production because you would not want to give that information away about your device. Now, something that we're going to have to do here before we commit our changes, before we actually write these changes, is we need to say what's going to happen from a root authentication perspective. It would make us do this. So we're going to say set root authentication plain text password, and we are going to enter our password. Yeah, it's saying, look, we let you in initially at factory default with no password on your root, but we're not doing that anymore if you want to save changes. Okay, no problem, Juniper. So we enter in a password for that root account. So some big time commands here we've learned: set hostname and set root authentication plain text password. Other things you would do if you're going through an initial configuration, of course, would be to set the time zone. You could go ahead and run set date, and you could go ahead and enter this particular time on this particular system. We won't bother with any of that. I just wanted to show you those important commands that we would utilize. What we want to do now is go ahead and commit our changes. So we type commit, and it is going through the motions of saving this configuration that we placed on the device. And again, this is kind of fun. We're just doing some initial configuration so that we can blow that configuration away. And now we can see it did work because now we're root at Juniper router. I'll exit, I will exit, I will exit. And we can see that we're about to log in to this new host named device Juniper router. We do root as the username and we do the password that we set as the password. You might say, well, wait a minute, Anthony, what if I were to forget that password? Well, we will have a nugget, of course, on password recovery. Well, it's a good thing that we did not do a whole bunch of intense configuration, because now we're just going to blow the configuration we did away. It's time to load the factory default configuration. And did you hear the words I just said? Load factory default. That's the command. Gotta love it when commands are that straightforward. So we'll enter the CLI here, and then we'll enter our configure mode. And now we are going to initiate our load factory default configuration. We get a warning about this. It's like, wow, you may have a bunch of intense and needed configurations on your device. Bye-bye, they're gone with the factory default. Of course, we haven't committed this yet. And before we can commit it, we know we need to do our root authentication setup. So we say set system root authentication, plain text password, and I will give the password that we want protecting this root account. Okay, got that in. So we can see that the load factory default configuration command, let me highlight it for you. That's a big one. Then our set system root authentication plain text password, enter that password, and now we are good to commit this configuration. You just got to spell that right. There we go. So we are going to commit this configuration, and then it would be good for us to know how to reload the Juniper device. Now, the Juniper gateway system that I'm on right now actually has a power button on the front face, so I could hit that power button and we could reboot. But oftentimes we want to be able to reboot from the software. So as soon as we commit here, I'm going to show you how we would do that. So great, our commit is complete. And now what we're going to do is reboot. Remember, to reboot, you just have to be really polite. Watch this. We exit to the operational mode and we say, I would like to request. Look at everything that we can request. One of those things is a system type operation. I would like to request a system reboot. So just remember to be polite. It says, are you sure you want to reboot the system? We say yes. And we reboot this Juniper router. What is going to happen when we come up? We hope to see when we come up a host name on this device of Amnesiac, because we should be back at the default factory configuration given our manipulations. Well, here we are after the reboot, and this looks really good. We see the host name of Amnesiac. And of course, we can log in with root. We can provide the password that we provided, and we have a configuration that is factory default at this point. Sometimes our nugget content can be quite complex, and it's a nugget you may have to watch many times over. This one might not be one of those. Pretty straightforward, but obviously important information nonetheless. Here we enjoyed restoring the factory default configuration on a Juniper device. I sure hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.